Chapter 5. Would you mind starting to cut up the chicken, Sam? Mrs. Everdeen asked politely, and I nodded. Walking over to the sink to wash my hands, I searched for the handle to turn the water on, but my hand reached empty air as I realized there were none. Wide-eyed, I looked at the contraption of a faucet, and Mrs. Everdeen, without even turning around to look, commented, "Just tap the spout with your wrist, dear." Continuously, I pressed my wrist against the top of the faucet, and the water turned on. With a grin, I continued to wash my hands. "You have quite a beautiful and very up-to-date kitchen, Mrs. Everdeen." "Why, thank you. I have been begging for years to get the old kitchen remodeled, and the boys finally got around to it this year for a birthday present." She started pouring the chopped up green peppers into a bowl. I moved over to the counter space, which was beautiful, and grabbed a stray cutting board. The kitchen was already set out on the counter, defrosting. Where are the cutting knives?" I asked. Giving the open space a once over, I felt out of place in the new surroundings. "I would have been better off to feel around blindly. Bottom drawer to your right," she replied automatically. Taking out a cooking dish, I did as instructed and revealed a drawer filled with the neatly pressed dish towels. "I think I will have a hard time cutting with towels," I said with a chuckle. "Oh, sorry, I'm not even used to this updated kitchen yet. Let's see, I do believe it's the drawer next to the dishwasher." Now finding the dishwasher was the hard part. It blended in as a drawer. The only thing that gave it away was that it was bigger than the rest. "Thank you," I said as I took out a large cutting knife so I could start cubing the chicken. "What exactly are we making again?" I asked, not remembering if she answered me or not the first time, but my voice was drawn out by the blender as it was turned on high, mixing the jar of eggs, cheese, and some little red vegetable that I couldn't place the name on. Shrugging my shoulders, I finished cutting the first chicken breast. Glancing over at the other ingredients, I glimpsed biscuits, more cheese, and milk. My eyebrows scrunched together as I didn't recognize any direction this was heading. The blender stopped, leaving a creamy yellow liquid left in the container, and I was just about to speak up again when another voice cut through the kitchen. "I'm going to be taking the human home," Tristan started to say, walking into the kitchen. His hand was on his neck and his eyes closed as he stepped through the threshold. "So I will be back in time for dinner." Both of our attention snapped up towards Tristan as he realized his mother didn't respond right away. His eyes opened. I smirked at the slight shock I saw in his eyes at me being inside if I weren't startled at the fact that he didn't call me by my name. His mother picked up on it also. "Samantha," she enunciated carefully, so he fully got it. "Will be staying here for dinner with us." The tensed at the dance. "Now I'm sure she would rather be at home," he started sternly, giving me a cold steel look that I couldn't stand to meet. Instead, I looked back down at the knife in my hand that was still slowly cubing the chicken. "I already asked her. She would love to," Mrs. Everdeen replied curtly. I could sense the slight disappointment in her voice. "So make yourself useful and start helping us with dinner, since you have already cleared your plans through dinner." He glanced between the two of us, his face falling flat and indifferent to look to the problem after taking a good look at his mother. With a grunt, he walked over to the sink to wash his hands. I stayed silent. The tension in the room was low enough to suffocate it. Mrs. Everdeen didn't seem to notice, taking her son's complaints as acceptance, and continued cheerfully. "We are making a new dish. The new family in the back brought with them." She finally answered my question. "I'm not sure of the actual name. The family had made it so long that they just knew the recipe by heart, not needing a real name," she struggled. I finished the chicken and walked over to the pan that was sitting atop of the stove, waiting to be filled with the liquid mixture and the chicken strips. My shoulder grazed against Tristan, the warmth and electric shock down my arm that caused me to falter, almost dropping the tray. He seemed not to feel a thing, just walked past as a low hiss escaped my lips. My cheeks burned a dull red. Just his presence in the room with us had turned the atmosphere into a claustrophobic claustrophobic area. My senses were filled with a strong woody scent that radiated off his skin, and my eyes didn't leave his back until Mrs. Everdeen interrupted my corrupted thoughts. Samantha, dear, just pour the chicken evenly in the pan. She commanded, carrying the empty mixture bowl to the sink. I noticed that she had poured the liquid in the pan, making it look like a cake of soup. Carefully, I scraped the chicken over the pan, watching the morsel sink into the surface. Over my head, Tristan placed a plate full of biscuits into the microwave, and I sucked in a breath, moving swiftly away from him. Slowly, I backed away from the kitchen, glad it wasn't closed off, and stepped in onto the other side of the counters. Next to the bar stool, once more I took a deep breath as his mom placed the pan into the oven, the biscuits resting top of the mixture of it all ready to be browned. He didn't look at me like I was insane for randomly walking away from him, neither did he even look at me at all. My mind was begging to be cleared of the cloudy feeling that had seeped through my senses since the moment he had breathed the air in the room. Excusing myself quietly after asking politely to where the bathroom was located, I rushed down the hall while trying to be inconspicuous about it. I almost passed the bathroom without noticing the hurriedly closed the door behind me, locking the bolt. The dim lighting in there took hold of my nerves and attempted to calm them. The sweet smell of warm vanilla sugar lightly filled the small room, the candle that was flickering on the sink counter providing the aroma. With a deep exhale of breath that I hadn't realized I had been holding, I leaned with both of my hands on the counter, giving a look in the mirror. My hair was damp, curling into even tighter curls than when I had been in school. There were drip streaks down my navy sweater that were drying slowly but still very visible. My pants felt even tighter, more skin tight in addition to the water they had soaked up, but drying also. My arms were shaking as I tried desperately to release the tension in my body, wanting so badly just to go home and forget this little scatter of homes in the woods and whatever was withholding them. How my voice echoed quietly in the small room as a whisper left my lips. How had my life totally shifted, my own self having nothing to do with it. It was all because I finally knew something that I shouldn't. I jumped as a light knock sounded on the door. Dear, you all right in there? Mrs. Everdeen asked quietly, and I shook my head as I replied, Yes, I'm fine. I opened the door, trying to look back to normal as I gave her a small smile. The lights had dimmed in the hallways, making the transition between the dim bathroom and them easier. She stood there, a small pile of clothing folded neatly in her arms. She held them out to me. You must be absolutely freezing in those clothes. Hair changed into these. You will be much more comfortable. I don't think I started almost stepping away so she didn't hand me the clothing. Nonsense, dear, take them. The boys have torn of shirts and I can spare one out of my hundreds of pairs of pants. She smiled and handed over the clothes. Hurry and get changed. Dinner should be done soon. I nodded slowly before shutting the door again, shuffling the pants and shirt in my hands. I started to peel away the jeans that were caked to my skin. The pants she had were the sweatpants with a string to tighten around my waist, but much more comfortable than the soaked jeans. The shirt was plain but huge, and when I pulled it over my tank top, that I wore underneath my sweater, it was baggy around me. Looking in the mirror once more, I shook my head. At least I was dry. Using a random hair tie that I kept wrapped around my waist, I tried the back of shirt so it became more fitting and tucked the shirt into the waistband of the sweats. Deciding I looked the best possible in the state I was in, I padded out of the bathroom and over to the kitchen. Mrs. Everdeen was just removing the dish from the oven, the smell making my mouth water. Over the way, the cheese and chicken mixed. See, isn't that much better? She said with a smile, and I gave out a small nod. I'll have the dish on the table in the moment. Why don't you go and join the boys? Hesitantly, I walked towards the direction she had indicated, the warm glow coming from the dining room. A quiet conversation was taking place between Tristan and a blonde man that I didn't recognize at first. The moment I stepped into the room, the conversation cut off. The both guys' attention snapped in my direction. The moment I met his eyes, I noticed the blonde man was the alpha Ryan that I had met yesterday. Nodding mutely, I kept my eyes downcast as I walked towards the empty seat, which was coincidentally between the two men. I could feel the heat of their glares, and I wanted to shrink down in the seat, but instead stayed firm, quietly waiting patiently, acknowledging moments passed slowly, and I could hear the beat of my heart. As silent, it was uncomfortable. I shifted nervously. What? I finally snapped, daring to meet Ram's eyes, and he looked shocked for a second, clearly not expecting me to speak. He cleared his throat and Tristan coughed quietly, looking out the window towards outside and falling sun. There hasn't been a human ever that has known our secrets, Mantha, Ryan said, probably more sharply than me too. There have been guesses, fairy tales and myths about us, but no human has actually known. This is uneasy ground we are stepping on by letting you live. I flinched at the word. In normal life, why would there be question about letting me live? So we aren't totally sure you can be trusted. Perhaps we will never be totally on safe ground. I won't tell anyone, I swear to it, I said evenly, meeting him eye to eye. Even though I wasn't one of them, I could feel the power, the superiority he had. The power of being the alpha behind his words. His eyes were cold as steel as he analyzed my face, scrutinizing for the hint of a lie in my words. That's all we ask for, but you still have to be watched, he said softly, suddenly seeming a tad more relaxed. A small smile circulated on his face, but my statement. Tristan was the opposite, tensing up even more, and I could barely hear the growl that escaped his lips. Rand's gaze looked over at him, but he didn't say a word, only leaving his eyes locked on him. Mrs. Everdeen chose that moment to walk into the room with a food in her hands, a smile beaming on her face, obvious of the atmosphere once again for steady boys and girls. I smiled back, glad I at least had Ryan's small ears towards me. It made me feel a bit better being in this household. She set the pan in the middle of the table and began to roll our servings between all of us. I glanced over at Tristan, who was blushing faintly. Mother, you don't need to give us our servings. Me and Ryan are grown up to be able to do that, he said with a roll of his eyes. Be quiet, let me do something motherly. You two are all grown up, and I felt like I'm becoming unused. Also, you two will probably eat the whole pan before me or Samantha gets any, she said with a smirk. Thank you, I said quietly when I was handed a heaping plate of the steaming dinner. Dinner was, I guess you could say, normal. Both Tristan and Ryan had relaxed enough around their mother, and it sounded like a normal family discussion, friendly and at sometimes humorous. Finding out that the two men were brothers had been the shock for me. They looked nothing alike, but I kept quiet, huddled in my chair and forcing myself not to scarf down the delicious soup like candy. Once the meal was over, I found myself laughing and smiling along with them. So was Tristan, and it was subtle to see him so relaxed and happy all of a sudden. He smiles and laughs like showers of electricity calling through me, but in a good way. If possible, it was contagious. We were collecting the dirty dishes, and I carried them to the sink, setting them down gently on the metal surface. Mechanically, I started searching for the soap, but Mrs. Everdeen started cry made me halt. Oh dear, no, you are a guest. Let me clean my own dishes. You should be getting home to your family anyway, she said, hurrying over to take the duty away from me. My smile faded off my face at the thought of the dark home again. Yeah, I guess so, I replied hollowly with an internal sigh. Thank you for dinner, Mrs. Everdeen. To my surprise, she enveloped me in her arms, pulling me down for a hug. My eyes were wide with shock, but I relaxed into her hold, hugging her back, feeling for the moment that she was my mother and I had her back. You're more than welcome, dear. Come over any time. It would be nice to have another girl around the house, she said, pulling away. Too soon for me, I smiled and might just take you up on that offer. I joked, but inside I found myself wanting to come back, and soon I walked myself to the door and started slipping on my shoes. My dry clothes folded in my arms. The jingle of keys stopped me in my tracks, and I glanced up from tying up my laces to see silver eyes boring down at me. You might need this, Tristan said, giving the keys another shake. He was standing close, and the same kind of heat that I had felt rolling off a mall dinner started warming me up head to the toe again. Stating I reached for the keys, thank I mumbled, but he pulled them away. I can't let you drive home alone in the dark. My mother will have my head, he said, and opened the door, waving me through. Giving a small smile of thanks, I stepped through. Outside it had stopped raining and the moon hung over us, its white surface inching closer to its full surface each night passing, making the darkness that had such mystery in the night where it closed to wear its veil. I got it in the car and buckled, sensing Tristan doing the same. The car started and we started driving back, away from the small confinement of the Peck village. Your mother is a very nice woman. I tried making small talk, nervousness itching at me once again. Yeah, sometimes she trusts people too much, he said with a sigh. The words panged at me as I understood the underlying meaning. He didn't trust me at all, and I grew quiet, the cut off that silencing my intentions of talking. The night road passed us through the window, a black curtain ready for painting in the daytime. A single tear slipped down my cheek, and I found myself disgusted at myself once again. Why in the world did I let myself get worked up over a stranger trust towards me? I had only known him for a matter of days. We were just people who had been both placed in the situation. But somehow every time I had seen him so far, I found myself intoxicated by the warmth he cast off, the jolt I got when our skin brushed on the accident, and I source of emptiness when he was away. My emotions were taking the reins of me, and I couldn't allow that. You are home, he murmured, and I realized that we were sitting idle in my driveway, wiping my cheek quickly, hoping he didn't see the glimmer of wetness across my face in the darkness. I turned quickly to him. How are you going to get home? You aren't taking my car, I asked, and in response, he tossed me the keys. I'm running. He sighed, and we both got out. The night air bit at me through the shirt I was wearing. He was already walking towards the edge of the woods, and I found myself muttering one final question. If you hate me so much, why let me live? Why not just kill me and get this problem over with? I asked. Slowly he turned back towards me, his silver eyes reflecting the moonlight that was cast down onto us. The illumination outlined his every feature, his face, flat and emotionless, his midnight black hair curled on his head, lightly draping almost over his eyes. I don't know. Then he was gone, and I was left standing there in the dark of the night, the keys hanging empty from my hand. I went into the house, which was dark and cold, like I expected. My chest felt hollow as I made my way upstairs, as if a piece had been taken from me. His voice an echo in my head.